So this is the research-based chapter. This is research on why this works. So even if you disagree with this, you're going to get the perspectives of the people that are actually researching why this works. You know, my opinion is this. We have the 4 levels. I want you to know the 4 levels because I think that's important when you're writing your papers. If you can talk about the 4 levels that we looked at on the last chapter, it's going to make the papers read better. It's going to help. All the districts I worked with in Pennsylvania used level 2. My advisor at Pitt, Maureen McClure, who I love and I adore and who's going to be watching this because she watches everything that I do if I put it online, but that's good. We wanted them to transition into incremental budgeting because we wanted priorities, but we wanted input from stakeholders, but we wanted it kept at the district level because that way stakeholders are the ones that are using it and they're giving their input and you can hear different voices. The level that Poston wants us to do is level 4. They want you to be doing, you know, everything ties back to data. If we're going to spend any money, it has to tie back to data. But Oklahoma, thankfully, is still at level 3. They're still saying incremental-based budgeting. That's why, you know, my belief is that you should know how to do this and you should at least see how this works. And you should be able to take programs that are in your building or in your district and rank them. Don't have to relate them back to data, but I want you to get exposure with ranking programs. Saying, in your opinion, based on your time in the district, understanding the organizational ethos, the organizational culture of the district, what's the most important thing, what's the next most important thing, what's the next most important thing. I noticed that nobody did the discussion board yet, which is great. I mean, you did a few of them, which is great, but I actually am going to change one because I'm kind of interested in one. I'm going to probably make one of the last discussion boards. I'm going to ask you to rank the subjects that are taught in your building in order and justify your ranking. I want you to tell me why. Because I want you, even though everybody has these, you know, we're all wide-eyed and every one of us are and we have these good ideas, I want you to be able to say, this is the least important subject in my building. I want you to be able to say that. I want you to give me a reason why it's the least important subject in my building. But I also want you to give me a reason why it's the most important subject in my building. And I want to see what that looks like. So basically here, this is what I'm doing. I am showing you that this is why, that they're showing that this, you know, that this level 4 performance-based budgeting, this is why we need to have it. They're backing it with research from some of the top names in social justice research. These aren't the top names in finance research because I hang out with all the top names in finance research. I don't know any of these people. I've never met one of them. But these are the social justice researchers. But they're the ones that are really pushing for performance-based budgeting. Now the finance researchers are telling you what? What are they saying you should be doing in your schools? When you get money, you spend, well, you hoard it if you can, but you get as much as you can and you spend it. Because you spend it, because if you spend money now, it improves performance for kids. And if you have a ranking system and you know what you're supposed to be doing, that's what you should be doing. But they're giving you, I mean, they're giving you a really, you know, a social justice perspective on it, which it's good to see 2 different perspectives, but it's important that you know that. So the other thing too that I think you need to know is that, and this is important, and I look at this from a human resources perspective, it's why I like this notion of succession planning. The kids declined in schools through the 70s and 80s. The American dream in life, you know, remember what we said last week, 2.4 kids, your 1,600 square foot home, that's the American dream in life, that's what everybody wants, and you know, your white picket fence. But we had this massive rush of school-age kids in the 50s and 60s, 70s through 80s, it declined, and now it's finally going up again, and there are more children going to schools. However, NCES doesn't do this in the way that it should be projected, in my opinion. If I'm looking at this, I would look where the increases occur district by district and region by region way. They don't do it. They say it's state by state way. I think you need to look at it in regions because, I mean, I know as far as I know, if I ever decided, which I would never decide I would want to move there, but if I ever said I want to be a professor in Boston, I'm not getting a home in Boston, there's no room to really have kids in Boston because there's really not. There's no room for growth or expansion there, but there's room for growth and expansion here. So in order to have economic confidence, you need to have alignment so that you're actually living within the means. You need to have efficiency, and you need to connect system priorities to results. But once again, the question I ask, what does a result look like? And that's up to you to determine. I don't know what a result looks like. How do you know? How do you know the marching band's successful, Matt?
would you like the dissertation answer, or, well,
Well, your dissertation answer is because it improves academic, right? Like,
well, no, I mean, there's competitions, but there's visual size, how many kids are out there on the field, quality, how they look.
okay.
I
How
could
about
keep going, but
How about attendance? Like, people actually come to competitions?
sure.
Okay, stuff like that. Not your current position, your old position. How do you know that? How do you know that a phys ed program is successful?
If the kids are participating?
Okay, so that's participation. The kids are participating; they're getting something out of it. How do you know Title I program is successful?
Scores, data.
Okay, all right. So, can I measure all three of these the same way?
Nope.
Nope. So that's the problem. So, when the federal government steps in and says they want a measurement, your measurement's going to be different for phys ed than yours for marching band. Yours is going to be for Title I. So what do I do? You know. So we say that school system budgeting is ineffective because only a few people make decisions. Now, a lot of this book, like I said, I'm going to, I roll my eyes at, but I agree with this because my experience, and your experience has probably shown you this too, that it's one or two vocal teachers that decide what happens for the rest of the group. And that can be a problem because you need to make sure that everybody's on board with the curriculum changes, with what's going on in class, with what's being selected. I'm all about that. I think a good budget and a good system should have a lot of input from a lot of different people. So different internal and external really sources have said that there are differences between what a budget looks like and what financial affairs look like. The best example of this that I can think for school districts is the notion and the concepts of early retirement. Early retirement, we talked about this a little last week. Is early retirement a good thing? If I could do early retirement in my district and I could get a lot of teachers out, is that a good thing?
Yes.
If you bring them back in, bring the new hires in at the
If
lower.
I have to bring the new hires in at a lower rate.
Lower rate.
And more importantly, I have to retain them at that lower rate. Then an early retirement system is freaking amazing. What happens if I have an early retirement system and then nobody takes it, but I offered only a few select take it? Then I'm paying additional costs or benefits that do absolutely nothing. So that's, when we say early retirement, what normally happens in this state and in a lot of other states is the school board goes crazy and the public goes crazy because they're saying, oh my God, we got to pay for these people their benefits for 5 to 7 years, and do we really want this? But if you measure the costs of early retirement versus to a district versus the savings, it can be significant. But then the problem is, taking this to a human resources perspective, are we replacing those people or with technology or machines or other things? The money might be going elsewhere. So that's a challenge. So what are problems in the budgeting? So I think this is important, and I think this is something that we can really look at. Sometimes the state sucks, and that's in any state. That's not just Oklahoma, that's any state in the United States. Sometimes they delay things. Revenue projections and predictions are very difficult. They're going to make a decision and then, oops, we need to delay it and we need to wait on it. What I have seen work, and I've seen this work from some of the top names in finance, what they will tell you to do in a district is go 5% under the previous year's budget, start planning. 5% under the previous year's budget. That way you're prepared if there's a cut. If there's not a cut, then you don't have to worry about it. So if the state is delaying something, if they're delaying the money that's coming in at the state level, or even you're waiting on a grant or something like that, cut it by 5%. Try to plan for that, and you should be good to go. So the other issue is if an external mandate comes in that is a last-minute external mandate. The book talked about two. The book talked about special ed mandates, and it talked about healthy schools mandates. Maybe I had a better perspective from Pennsylvania, but I thought we were kind of prepared for special ed. I really do. I thought we built it in nicely. I mean, mind you, I'm talking late 90s, early 2000s. How did you guys feel about special ed? Do you feel like districts got enough of a warning that special ed was, you're going to have to raise costs and we were going to have to decrease? I thought we did good in Pennsylvania. Healthy schools movement was just kind of thrown at all of us, right? I mean, you all saw that. You had to change food service plans, you had to change fundraisers, you had to change you had to change what was offered. Lisa Say, who I love and who some of you had the opportunity to work with, she's really looking at this and potentially is going to do this for her dissertation topic, which nobody else has done, and I think it's great. She wants to look at the unintended consequences of the healthy choice movement in schools. Nobody's doing that right now, and I think it's genius. And I think it would offer something really, really, really good, because that's an unfunded external mandate that came in and changed how schools look. And you guys have to suffer for it, and we all have to suffer for it. So, inflation costs, if things are inflated, other resources need to be cut. What we say in a unionized state, and we don't say this here, but we know who has power in a school district, whether it's administration or the teachers. What are the different types of union contracts? Did I go over this last week? How many years are union contracts? There's 3 different options in a unionized state. 3-year, 5-year, 10-year. If there's a 10-year contract, who has the power, the teachers or the administrators? Teachers. If there's 3-year, who has the power? Administrators. So in 10 years, inflation happens. So if inflation is built in, then you're cutting other resources because you have to fulfill the adequacy of the contract that the teaching union had. So if you go to a unionized state, you have to keep that in mind. If I was going to be a superintendent and I went back and did it in Ohio, did it in Pennsylvania, and I interviewed at a district that had a 10-year teacher contract, I would be terrified to step into that district from day one, because I would say, I'm going to be a figurehead here. Actually, that might be good to be a figurehead, who knows. But I'm going to step in and I'm going to say, okay, so the teachers have the power, they set the rules, they make the governance here, that's the way it is. 3 years, the administrators probably are a little unfair. You get it in the middle, that's going to help with your inflation costs. So anytime there is a vote, there's never a guarantee that the issue will pass. The textbook in favor of performance-based budgeting, once again, this textbook is going to try to just sell you on the system. This book is a sales pitch. But it shows you that all the states that have gotten really hurt when issues go to vote, because most of the time the votes never go right. So it's worth looking at. So you can do whatever you want with the information, but it's how you explain it to other stakeholders so that they understand why you're making the decisions that you're making. Good superintendents can take this and they can make smart decisions and they can explain them, and they can do it in a way where they understand how it benefits the district. Most school officials are not trained in accounting, but that means that they should have good people in accounting but also have a background in education. So, things that cause unexpected events. Here's really what happens. There are two major things that happens. One of these 2 things are going to happen to you at some point in your career as a superintendent. I saw the second, the second one, really, I didn't see special ed, I saw ELL. I saw there was a massive increase in ELL population in the district I was in, and that was so unexpected that the budget wasn't planned for it, the district wasn't planned for it. Our district took in 100 Bosnian refugees, and we needed to have people ready for that. But what if there's a major shift in special ed, and they all come moving into the district at the same time? Stuff like that happens, an EOL shift. Then the budget changes. What if the governor makes a last-minute cut? I came from a state that had a governor who just cut everything. And you know what he did? He cut it, and then at the last minute, he put all of the money back. Not all of it, but he put most of it back. Why did he take that approach?
Try to be the hero.
Yeah. So that he could get
Votes.
but re-elected.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. But that was the goal. So if you cut and then you put it back in, you're the hero. You get re-elected. People do that. So the book talks about, the bomb bigger than the plane. It says that society makes demands for schools that the schools don't meet the mission that the school is supposed to do, because society keeps changing it, and then the bomb becomes bigger than the plane. So anything that we do with cost-benefit analysis comes down to one major line. It goes back to how we are measuring performance, and that's good, but this is why I'm going back to what I think is most important, and that's program ranking and line item budgeting, because everybody in this room, all of us, should be able to give our opinions and use our own personal data to say why this program matters, why this grade matters, why this salary matters, why this stuff matters. And that's something all of you should know how to do. So we have to talk a little bit about participatory decision making. Why we should have more people involved. I think this is also a no-brainer. My biggest reason, and I think the book had this ranked 5th, I moved it to 1st, is transparency. Because I think you need to be transparent. You need to, if you're going to make a decision that impacts an entire district or an entire school, you have to make sure that people see it and people hear it and they understand it, and then they can give their opinions on it. You give ownership. If different people are involved, there's higher quality. Blah blah blah. You know what that is. But like I said, I'm big on the transparency idea. Accountability. That's also good because you have the right people making the decisions, and there are good stakeholders involved in it. So that can also be a good thing. Anything related to assessment into curriculum. The cool thing about it is you can actually see the goals and objectives of the school system working. And we talked about this in here, we talked about this in North Theory, but when you are a building principal, when you're in a superintendent, what should the benchmark exams look like? If you're designing benchmark exams for your building, what should they look like? The standardized tests only, much
Shorter.
big, shorter's fine, but content-wise, I would argue harder. Good benchmark exams are shorter because you're not worried about fatigue, and they look like the standardized exams, only harder. Why?
So when the big test rolls around, they've already tackled the hard material and they're prepared.
Yep, they're through the hard part. The standardized test is going to be easy, and if we go back to any principles that we've all learned in early childhood, what do we do with 1st and 2nd graders? We give them tasks that we know they can do. So anything, any different types of assessment plans show you how there are different assessments at different levels, at the system, at the school, and the classroom level. The data has to be timely, and it also has to be explained well to stakeholders. Once again, let's talk about technology, because that's another thing we're going to talk about here next week. You would want this also to be put in a database so we can look at strengths and weaknesses, terminate programs that aren't working, and support the budget where it's necessary to support it. So that's it. That's the end of Poston, and that's all that I'm going to cover in here face-to-face. 3 and 4 are content-based research. I would watch the videos for those for sure, but you need to decide if this is going to help you with anything. The rest of the content from this book will be online. I'll send you links like I did before, and you can look at it on your own at your own time and your own convenience. But that's my plan for Poston for this class. So it is now 5:53. Let's do